Hi, this is Scott Rocknak, and I wanted to talk to you about Maine's preparedness for a natural disaster similar to what we're looking at with Helene in southeast United States, especially North Carolina. Now granted, we're different here in Maine. We don't get hit very often, but we have been hit before with 1954 with two hurricanes, one after another, and right here in Knox County took the heat of it. And also in 1960 with Donna, and we almost got hit with Daniel and Bob and others. We kind of joke here that we have a breakwater to prevent us from getting hurricanes, and that's Cape Cod. However, they can come here, and if a hurricane moves inland, then since it's a counterclockwise storm in this hemisphere, all the winds come from the southeast, and you saw what happened in January of this year actually. In 1985, Hurricane Gloria went inland. I was there to help prep Camden Harbor for it. The rollers were 6 feet high and came all the way into the boathouse. Back in 1954, it actually moved the lighthouse. So it's pretty powerful. So are we ready? Well, you would think, oh, well, there's FEMA, national, there's Maine FEMA, there's state authorities, municipal, local authorities, and there are. And some of them are really ready, I'm sure. I haven't talked to all of them. But my experience is that when we were going to the feds in the early 90s, that FEMA was not any help to us. They weren't able to provide aircraft, they weren't able to provide logistics, they didn't know what to do. So we needed to move food, and we were getting donated food from a grocery store chain that's popular in the Southeast. And we had all the people donating food with the idea that we would provide logistics and getting it to Florida. We ended up moving 2 million pounds of food, both to Florida and Louisiana, to Baton Rouge, and to Miami and Homestead. And that was the largest shipment of foods, private shipment of food since World War II. So it was a big deal. However, I found that there were political issues with the entire logistical chain. When we were entering Florida with the trucks, we were told that we could go no further than Daytona. And that was a blockade put on by the governor. And that was a political move. And I'll tell you why in a minute. We managed to convince the state police to keep going, and we did. When we got to Fort Lauderdale, we got word that once we entered Miami, we weren't going to be allowed to enter Robbie Stadium, where we were going to stage the food deliveries. And this is where all the power companies were, and the ice and other things. And we demanded to know why, and we eventually found out that they thought that Barbara Bush was going to fly into the center of the stadium and thank the non-union drivers that were in these grocery store trucks. So we scrambled and we found a bank that repossessed a warehouse, and they were going to let us use the warehouse. But that word got out, and there was protesters at the entrance to the warehouse with signs and everything. We managed to deal with the protesters, myself and the logistics guy from the American Red Cross that I was working with, managed to convince them that we would put them on television if they let us get in, and they allowed that, and we showed their situation on television, and then we came in and we started unloading the food. And this is why it's important for the next step. It wasn't government agencies that came in and got 2 million pounds of food. It was essentially church groups and vans and rental trucks and cars that came, and they cleared the place out in no time. It was amazing. But in the end, they're the ones that are attached to their community, and they had the ability with their vehicles to get to the people in need. We also ran some trucks to Homestead directly. We weren't supposed to, but we did. And we unloaded there directly to, again, local groups. And we're seeing a parallel to this with Helene. We're seeing not necessarily government interference, but government inefficiencies. Some would say interference, but not everywhere. And I want to differentiate between local police and sheriffs from federal, or sometimes even state. We had that kind of issue with Andrew, and I see it happening with Helene. We have helicopter pilots that are not allowed to fly because of over control for safety, but that's not the real reason, I don't think, because they're allowed to fly the next day or two. We also see Starlinks not being able to be delivered. There's problems with that. There's a lot of parallels. In order for Maine to be ready, we need to have the people on the ground to be in good shape. And that essentially are the public sector. The public sector, in the end, the volunteers are the ones that carry the day. In the disasters that I've been involved with, and also watching what's happening in Helene. In order for Maine to have a strong community, it needs to have a strong business community. And if you look at some of the indicators compared to other states, Maine is near the bottom. Compared to other states, Maine's economy ranks number 44. Our GDP ranks number 42. Maine's regulatory environment ranks number 48. Our business environment ranks number 46, or 5th worst. We rank number 43, or 8th worst, for top states for businesses. Maine ranks number 42 for venture capital investment, number 47 for access to capital for businesses. Our infrastructure ranks number 49, the 2nd worst in the nation. Also, we're 2nd to the lowest for the percentage of our population under 18 years old. Tying for number 6 worst with West Virginia and South Dakota, Maine's workforce ranks number 43. Our job market ranks number 44. And regarding federal dependency, we rank number 12 for the most reliant on federal funds. We average over $6,600 per capita for the past 6 years, and Maine ranks number 10 among states receiving more in federal funding than it pays in federal taxes. So business aside, we also need to have a strong populace, and we need to look at several factors. We have to have our people healthy, we have to have youthful people, younger people, we have to have trained people, we have to have volunteer fire departments that are manned, we have to have the proper amount of local police, we have to have a good setup with a local Maine FEMA with the volunteers that allow the volunteers to work if they're going to be in charge, and have that command structure in place. Now, I'm sure a lot of it is, but I can tell you with the private sector, they're affected by the economy. So this is one of the things that I've been talking about with common denominators. How do we get the economy better? Well, there are certain things we can go after. Not everyone will be happy with them, especially the current administration, but it is possible to chip it down so we can be in better shape. And that's the parallel that I like to draw between almost anything and bringing down the cost of goods, cost of services, cost of fuel, taxes, property taxes, and so forth. And that's what I'm looking to do when I go to Augusta, because it affects everything. One of the first bills that I want to propose revolves around energy. If energy is reasonably abundant and reasonably inexpensive, it rises all ships in the sea. This includes everything from property taxes, other kinds of taxes, costs of labor, costs of materials. All these things change with the cost of energy. It's just one small component, but it's a component that if it's addressed properly, it will help add to other factors in order to bring down expenses. And bringing down expenses, hopefully we improve the economy and we increase our resiliency. I appreciate your vote, if you can do it, on November 5th or before, and thanks for watching.